Of all the things I'm excited to see end on Tuesday, the forever parade of abortion tall tales is near the top of the list. It's probably naive to think that it will stop, actually, but even a slowdown is very welcome. Sure, the country is falling apart, but imagine a future where you might not be able to kill your kids with ease, has been the Democrat sales pitch for months. But hey, maybe they have a point. I'm sure it would be horrifying to have your baby survive, only to become a Joe Biden snack anyway. One way or another, the Democrats will get him. We're now over 2 years removed from the overturning of Roe v. Wade at the Supreme Court, and states immediately implemented abortion law changes. Some restricted, but many expanded. And for all the horror stories of women hopelessly wandering the abortion desert, collapsing dead from the lack of access, the opposite is actually true. Despite the legal changes, abortion rates have increased since the Supreme Court decision. Abortions are more common now than they were when Roe was in place. So if the claim that abortions are difficult to access is exaggerated but must be maintained, so too are the stories that supposedly demonstrate it. Democrats featured Kate Cox at their convention, the Texas woman who claimed she had to flee her state to get a medically necessary abortion, except for the fact that her own doctor would not testify that the abortion was necessary to preserve her health. So the abortion was entirely elective. And if MAGA extremists have their way, they're going to go after miscarriages, too. Don't have a miscarriage, Kamala said during her nomination acceptance speech, because they're going to keep a record of it and maybe send the sheriff after you to investigate.
Get this. He plans to create a national anti-abortion coordinator and force states to report on women's miscarriages and abortions. Simply put, they are out of their minds.
Wow, how dystopian and terrifying. But considering conservative states have now had the legal right to implement exactly the policies you're warning about for a couple of years, surely there must be examples of this, right? Surely there must be prisons full of women who suffered agonizing miscarriages, only to be forced into orange jumpsuits to serve long sentences that amplify the anguish, right? Well, enter our supposed example, courtesy of the Washington Post and New York Times writer Nicholas Kristof highlighting their story on Tuesday. Did you know that a struggling Nevada mom suffered a miscarriage and then the police showed up and arrested her for manslaughter, and she was sentenced to years in prison away from her children? This is family values? Think about this as you vote, Kristof tweeted, followed by a community note that's almost as brutal as what this woman did to her kid. Yeah, did you actually read the story? Because she smoked meth and took other measures to intentionally kill her 30-week-old baby. And in fairness to the Washington Post, their story doesn't conceal any of those details. In fact, that's where the community note is getting its information. So Kristof either didn't read the story or is intentionally mischaracterizing the unconscionable treatment of a child to justify more of that in the future. The woman in this story is Patience Frazier. She lived in rural Nevada at the time, and her story is the feature of this Washington Post article published on Tuesday. And she was indeed visited by police to investigate what happened to her baby. The Washington Post has published the body cam footage of that encounter, and if you only watched the first few moments of it, you might get the impression that this actually was just a miscarriage, improperly investigated.
I'm not allowed to have personal things in my life. Seriously? I had a miscarriage, okay? A miscarriage. Why are you guys here over a f***ing miscarriage?
But wait, there's more. A miscarriage is a spontaneous, natural event. This woman, however, went on to describe non-spontaneous, non-natural events.
Because I did everything I could to have a miscarriage.
Why would you do that?
Because I couldn't take on 4 kids.
What were you intentionally doing to try to miscarry?
I was taking large quantities of cinnamon. I went online, looked up everything.
What else?
I was helping him build or take apart vehicles, lifting things I wasn't supposed to be lifting.
And as the community note described, it was actually much worse than just that. In fact, the term miscarriage doesn't strictly apply because this baby was well beyond 20 weeks. This was a stillbirth. This baby was about 8 months developed. So what happened then? Let's have a read of the story. In May 2018, police visited this woman, and already just that date is significant. May 2018, as in 4 years before the Supreme Court decision? Yes, that's correct, according to the story itself. Well before Roe v. Wade fell, all of this happened. And in fact, Nevada had and still does have abortion access to the point of fetal viability, about 24 weeks. Meaning this event has nothing to do with the Supreme Court decision that they warn about. It has nothing to do with any abortion ban at all. There was no such abortion ban in that state at that time, and there still isn't today. So something else happened, didn't it? This woman who, as you heard, already had other children, started dating a drug addict. In fact, that's why she thought police were at her home that day, to find her druggy boyfriend. That boyfriend got her pregnant. She had made plans to get an abortion in Reno, about 150 miles away, but she didn't have the car to get there, so it didn't happen. And so, as you heard, she opted for some home remedies instead. She took the cinnamon challenge every day, thinking that would end the pregnancy, though it doesn't look like she ever posted the video. I've never heard of that causing miscarriage, according to the Post, citing medical experts who testified in this case. It doesn't. It doesn't do anything to pregnancy at all. She just read some bad information on the internet. She lifted heavy objects like 100-pound bags. And she also tried taking pills. What kind of pills? Unspecified. But they must have been gateway drugs because without any success, she just went straight to the hardest. Meth. But it wasn't her fault, though. It was her meth head baby daddy boyfriend. He pressured her to smoke meth with him, according to the story. She had tried to stay clean for her kids, but she did indulge once in a while. Tried to stay clean of meth for her kids, of course, implies that she wasn't always clean of meth for her kids prior. That's its own separate issue, but this is absolute demonstrated fact. It is not alleged that she wanted to kill her baby. She said she did. It is not alleged that she did meth. She's on video doing it while pregnant. And the baby's remains tested positive for it and marijuana. But come on, don't jump to any conclusions, the Washington Post says in the funniest paragraph in this article. Actually, meth is a lot like cinnamon. It's not believed to be good for a pregnancy, and medical experts discourage its consumption by pregnant women, but we don't know with certainty that it caused the miscarriage in this case. Exactly how many meth babies are born healthy is unexplained. And remember, this isn't just a medical mystery. It's also a demonstration of family values, according to Nicholas Kristof, the New York Times author, explaining the story to us. It's all just part of being an excited parent-to-be. You make a list of baby names, you furnish the room with a crib and some adorable stuffed animals and a nightlight, and you smoke a little meth to make the most of the moment. Who would the state be to intervene in that party? But whatever the exact cause was, the effect was achieved. Some combination of the cinnamon spice meth squats killed her kid. Late one night, she started bleeding heavily. She felt a pressure in her lower pelvis. To avoid her meth head boyfriend, she went outside and she birthed a baby boy she named Abel. He had developed facial features. She says she tried to give him CPR to no effect. She buried him in the yard and only mentioned the baby's death in a Facebook post that would later get to investigators. I mentioned that the term miscarriage doesn't actually apply because this baby was so late in the term, about 30 weeks. But the term stillbirth might not actually apply either because investigators initially believed the baby may have been born alive. The medical examiner could not make that determination and found no evidence that the baby was born alive, but when exactly the baby died remains unclear. Frazier pleaded guilty to a manslaughter charge under a Nevada law that criminalizes using drugs to terminate a pregnancy. She was sentenced to 2.5 to 8 years in prison. She served 2 until she was released in 2021 after appeal based on ineffective assistance of counsel. She had a bad lawyer and shouldn't have pleaded guilty because she wasn't guilty, according to the judge. It wasn't properly established that she took drugs with the intent of ending her pregnancy. And so her conviction was a total miscarriage of justice, he wrote, apparently unironically. Yep, just an innocent and coincidental cinnamon and meth bender of justice. Just some insanely heavy max lifts of justice. Just a little sip of bleach of justice, really. Another method of attempted pregnancy termination that Fraser's mom accused her of using in the past. She drank bleach to try to kill her kid. I make jokes with full acknowledgement of the tragedy of the life lost, of course. This kid was brutalized in a way that nobody, let alone an innocent child, ever should be. But to that tragedy, was mom's life actually improved by it? She got the abortion that she wanted, whether it was accidental or not. She wanted that baby gone because she couldn't support another, she said. According to the Democrat Party prophecy, she should be in paradise right now, free from the consequences of her own actions. But the abortion is not what improved her life. Having another kid did, actually. The story concludes with mention of her newest son, a little boy now 2 years old she had a year after her release. She can hardly afford to make ends meet now living in South Dakota, but she still spoils that boy with anything to make him smile. A powered toy car to drive around the neighborhood, a garden to work on with mom, mini monster trucks of every variety they make. More than anything, she now says, she just wants to be a good mom. So what actually saved her? Was it the abortion altar, or was it doing her best for her children? What provides purpose in her life? What helps her process and come to terms with her past mistakes and, yes, even her crimes? What gives her reason to do better going forward? It's her sons, including, tragically, the fourth, who should be walking among them. But we're supposed to believe that all of these lives are actually inconsequential as long as mom had snuffed them out before they ever really had a chance. Instead, they are the most consequential thing in her life. The value of theirs gives value to hers. So we should all consider these supposed horror stories very carefully. Oh no! Imagine a future where you might not be able to kill your kid on demand. Oh no! Imagine a future where the state might investigate you if you smoke meth until you miscarry. No. Imagine a future where we deny the basic reality of that photo, that every life in it is worth defending. Yes, including the one that isn't there because of mom's destruction. And yes, including mom's herself, despite her evil, because these boys need her. And she owes them improvement because of it. The point is, if we actually are worried about a dystopian future, try denying the inherent value of human life. Without that premise, every other moral principle falls. Because then we really will need the meth pipe, actually, not for an abortion or anything, but just to try to make any sense of the world. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on X. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chatting my live streams. Those are live on Wednesday and Sunday nights. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.